This essentialist mindset requires the courage to get over the fear of missing out. Hi everybody, welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, I'm Tanya, a doctor, lawyer turned homeschool mom of 3 kids ages 10, 7, and 5. This coming year will be our 5th year of homeschooling, and if you're interested in videos about secular homeschooling, raising a child with ADHD, and living a more essentialist lifestyle, you have come to the right place, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. In today's video, I'm continuing our discussion of the book that started my whole essentialism kick, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I am doing this in collaboration with one of my best friends, Joy, over at Joy-Filled Journey. She and I both realized that this book, far from being just a book about task lists or trying to make your life more efficient, was much more about changing your mindset about how you structure your life altogether. Specifically in terms of homeschooling though, we thought it would be helpful to do a video series going through each of the 4 parts of the book to discuss exactly how we apply these principles in a practical way in our lives as homeschooling moms. So the second part of the book is actually entitled Explore. How can we discern the trivial many from the vital few? That is something that I think we all have difficulty with, but particularly as homeschool moms, I think in an era where we are inundated with so many good choices, so many good co-op options, field trip options, extracurricular options, now online Zoom class options, it's difficult to decide what actually should we do, and if our best friend is doing this, should we do it too? If an influencer that we really respect suddenly changes from classical homeschooling to Waldorf homeschooling, should we change too? There's a lot of outside input in our lives right now, and this book definitely gives you practical tools to sort of filter through that noise and discern what is actually important to you in your life, which necessarily will be different from what is important to me in my life. That fundamental understanding that what is vital to you will not be and probably should not be what is vital to your best friend or your next door neighbor is like one of the first steps in that essentialist mind shift. I think in today's culture, we see Instagram, we see YouTube, we see what other people are doing to an extent that we never did before. And that flood of information can cause us to second guess ourselves and change course and shift, sometimes without going through the appropriate analysis of why we're doing that. So first off, the book talks about how a non-essentialist explores a myriad of things and just keeps exploring, just keeps doing surface, shallow dives into everything, tries to incorporate every good thing she has ever seen into her life and into the lives of her children. An essentialist, on the other hand, definitely spends time exploring, but exploring is not the end in and of itself. The purpose of exploring is always to discern what would be best for the essentialist. So how do we decrease the noise of all this input? The book says that one of the first questions you should ask yourself is, what exactly are you trying to answer or achieve? What is the goal of the exploration? Are we just trying to learn everything we can about homeschooling? Because that's not going to get you very far. There is an endless plethora of videos and blog posts and books to teach you about that. What is it you're trying to get to? Are you trying to learn about math curricula? Are you trying to learn about how to homeschool a child with ADHD? What exactly is your question? What is the answer that you seek? What problem are you trying to solve here? And then hone your research to that end. When you do your research, don't simply collect the information and go and buy all the curricula. Collect the information and then evaluate them according to specific criteria that you have already created. Not after the fact, not after you see, for example, a curricula or a co-op class or an extracurricular activity and then say, wow, that looks great and my neighbor does that and she loves it. But for you yourself, your own family, what are your minimum criteria for achieving this goal or achieving this purpose? Have 3 minimum criteria. If it doesn't pass those minimum criteria, you should not be engaged in it. For example, if one of your minimum criteria for a writing program is that there is essays in it, that there will be some instruction in how to write an expository essay. If you are looking at a writing program that doesn't have that, it should be immediately eliminated, right? It immediately does not meet that minimum criteria. In another vein, if you're looking at math curricula And one of the minimum criteria is that it shouldn't have more than 25 problems on a page. You can immediately eliminate anything that does, right? Having 3 set criteria, minimum criteria, really simplifies your process. Another minimum criteria might be for extracurricular activities. If you want to guard your weekend time, and so nothing that has required weekend activities is a minimum criteria, then everything that requires you to meet on a Saturday night at 6:30 is out. Period. It simplifies your life, it reduces your mental clutter, and it keeps you from having that perpetual mom brain of someone juggling 10,000 pieces of information. It will reduce your mental clutter, it will reduce that mental load that moms carry with them of always constantly evaluating and reevaluating options, constantly shifting their schedule, trying to make things fit, trying to make things work, sighing in that exhausted, I'm busy, but I'm handling it kind of way. There's really no reason to get yourself into that position in the first place, because you already know, admit it, we already know what our families can handle and what they can't. Some families can go out every single night to extracurriculars and still be cheerful and happy and get along. Other families cannot. Other families, either because of the parents' personalities or the children's or both, cannot do that. And if you are one of those families, that should probably be a minimum criteria for you. There are so many wonderful things in the world. There's no reason to suffer through the things that don't gel with us and our family values. I should mention that before a lot of this analysis is done, the book talks about how you want to escape. You should escape. You should honor your quiet time. Moms never do. Have you noticed? And homeschool moms even less so. To get that quiet time is such a struggle. And I know that I have been horrible at this throughout my homeschooling career. I was always amazed by the parents who said, after lunch, there's this hour of quiet time. They used to go down for a nap, and now they just have quiet time in their rooms and they know about it. If you're listening and you have small children, I totally recommend this. I wish I had done this so my children knew that that was the expectation. Instead, as each of my children subsequently lost their afternoon nap time, they just sort of joined the rest of us, and there is no set quiet time in my house. One of my goals for next year is to work in a set quiet time. I'm going to start with a short 15-minute period of quiet and then maybe up it to 30 minutes and 45 minutes and then an hour as the year goes on. And that's my plan for carving out an hour of silence and quiet in my life where I do not have to be disturbed every 5 seconds for nice things like hugs and notes of love. And also annoying things like she pushed me, he pushed me, he said this, she stuck out her tongue, yada yada. I want an hour where I know my mental health is protected. And I think that's really important for anyone, whether you are introverted or extroverted. And if you're introverted, you might need even more time to do this deep thinking, to set up your criteria for your choices in your life. It's really hard to think this deliberately about your life without ensuring that you have enough quiet time to do it. It's part of the reason why I have the stance on social media that I do. I think you should protect your time, and I don't think you should fall into wells of time with social media. What I do now is I actually set a timer every time I go on Instagram. And so even if I'm doing it for work, like to post a post about Project Happy Home, I will set a timer and just make sure that when that timer goes off, I pop off also. And it also explains my stance on the notification bell down below. Now in the first video I said hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. When you are learning something, when you're engaging with content in a way that it's like a course and you are self-improving, go ahead and hit that notification bell because you want to be aware of what's going on, you want to learn more. But when it's just a vlog channel or it's just regular standard videos and you don't necessarily need to watch them, I really suggest turning off all your notifications because it interrupts your day, it interrupts your flow, it interrupts the things that are actually more important in your life. So that's one pro tip there. Unless you are actively engaged in learning content, for example, through this book discussion about essentialism, don't hit the notification bell. You really don't need to see what somebody ate for breakfast that day. Within the explore part of the book, there are 3 more sections that he talks about in particular. The first is play, and then sleep, and then select. In play, he talks about the importance of play. We all understand the importance of play, particularly if we are Homeschool Moms. The interesting thing about play, he talks about the brain chemistry of play. And when we are at play, in that flow state of actually enjoying what we're doing and exploring something and being challenged, we actually engage all the parts of our brain that are involved in planning and cognitive processing and really forward thinking. Like, what am I going to do next with this Lego brick? But we also think about all the free and creative things that we could do. So a lot of the parts of our brain that are more, artistic and creative and open to possibilities that we hadn't considered, those come online as well. So the more you can integrate play into your kids' day, the better. Whether it's self-directed play or suggested play. I know there's a lot out there in the homeschooling community about the strewing concept. I think that's a great example of integrating both aspects of play for your child. You leave out some books about squids, you leave a little water table, a plushie of a squid, some information about it, like some suction cups so they can practice like what that feels like and learn for themselves what suction is and what like pressure changes are needed to like stick something on or pull something off. Strewing is a great example of like inviting play, right? You're not directing the play like, now you move this many spaces, now you do this. It's not the closed-end play of like chutes and ladders. It's the open-ended play that you can give your kids. Same thing with taking them to museums, taking them to ponds, taking them to your backyard, giving them that square foot of lawn to explore. Like, what do you see here? Here's a magnifying glass. Go for it. Play-based learning is so worthwhile no matter what style of homeschooling you subscribe to. One thing that people don't realize is that the word school is derived from the Greek word for leisure. It is to learn through play, is the concept of school, the very origin of school. We are playing with ideas, we're playing with manipulatives, we are playing our way into knowledge. The next section in the book is sleep, and sleep is subtitled with the words protect the asset. What is the asset? You are the asset. And we all know this as moms. We have the capacity to change the mood of the house single-handedly. We freak out, house changes, the mood changes. We're happy and carefree, the mood picks up. For better or for worse, we are the hub. Like our energy has ripple effects throughout the rest of the family. We have a lot of power and control. We also have a lot of responsibility. And with great responsibility comes the need to take care of the person who is at the wheel. And if you as the mom or you as the homeschool dad are at the wheel most of the day, you really owe it to your kids and to yourself to protect yourself, to sleep appropriately, to have all of those things that fall under the umbrella of self-care. If you turn into a snipey harping witch, it shows. It spills over onto other people. It's really not internal. So if you need to get more sleep, get more sleep. Nowadays, there's been lots of research done on sleep. If you read the Huffington Post and Ariana Huffington, she wrote a book about it, about not being rested, about how sleep transformed her life. And I need to get better at it. I have never been a great sleeper in the sense that I never sleep for an incredibly long time. I'm a night owl. I generally will go to sleep at around midnight and wake up at around 6. So that's about 6 hours of sleep. I'd like to build that up into more, and hopefully I can get better at it next year or this coming year. One of the ways I would suggest that you do that is not keeping your phone next to your bed. I'm guilty of this. I tried to not do it for about a month or two last year, and it really did help. Another thing is to get a regular alarm clock. You don't actually need your phone to wake up. We all remember alarm clocks. Another thing you can do is to make a commitment to yourself to about an hour before you go to sleep or 2 hours before you go to sleep, come off of all devices and just read a book or do something else that is not engaged in this, social media thing. One quick note about all those blue light glasses, there is no actual conclusive evidence that they do anything at all. So I would suggest saving your money for right now. One interesting story that was in the sleep section was about the concept of the 10,000 hour rule. You've probably heard of it. It was popularized in Malcolm Gladwell's book where he discussed that the most success was achieved by people who practiced for at least 10,000 hours at something. This was based on a study done on violinists, and the researchers concluded that the best violinists had all practiced 10,000 hours or more at the violin. So practice was deemed the first and most important factor of success. But the second most important factor was actually sleep. So there's something about how the brain restructures itself and rests and repairs and forms new neural connections that is just biologically proven, and we should respect that. People like me who like to say they're a night owl who don't need very much sleep. The next section is called Select. So as you're exploring the options, as you're thinking about curricula and extracurriculars and timing and schedules and even like lunches and all of this stuff, remember what I said before. You create 3 minimum criteria and then about 5 extreme criteria next. And only if it passes the 3 minimum criteria and at least 3 out of your 5 extreme criteria should it be a yes. When we talk about gut feelings with that, we can translate into something else. We can translate it into, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So in a world full of good possibilities, if it's not the best possibility, it should be a no. In my position, I have definitely made that mistake when it comes to things like planners and curricula and even extracurriculars or groups. Sometimes I get over-enthused by the fact that this exists. The very existence of this good thing makes me excited, and I don't run it through any criteria, and I'm like, we should do this. Even when it comes to things like skincare, I can get overly enthused by someone else's enthusiasm. An essentialist mindset really asks you to shed that and run it very clearly through those criteria. Is it a hell yes? Like when I hear about this, is it like a yes, I want to do this? Or yes, like my kid should do this? Or is it a, I think it's pretty good? Because if it's that, then it most likely does not pass all your criteria, or even 3 out of the 5 extreme. So let it go. Part of that, though, requires courage, right? This essentialist mindset requires the courage to get over the fear of missing out, to get over FOMO completely, and to really embrace JOMO, the joy of missing out. The idea that I'm going to let this good option pass me by, relying on the fact that in all likelihood, the best option for me will come along. We will run into something that is better. And as I grow up with these kids, I always tell my son I'm exactly as old a mom as you are, like my eldest. As I grow up, I'm learning more and more to trust that gut feeling and just be okay with the fact that other people are on swim team or other people are practicing golf or whatever. Just to be okay with the fact that this is the path we've chosen, this is where we are now, this is how the equilibrium in our family feels right now, and to go with that. For a couple years, we didn't do Taekwondo. It didn't fit with our family rhythm. I tried it. The drive was too long. The schedule was too off. I wasn't such a fan of the class, and I let it go. So sometimes we make mistakes and we can reevaluate. But if I had run it through this essentialist mindset at the beginning, I would have realized that that class, the way it was structured, did not meet even my 3 minimum criteria. The schedule didn't work for what my minimum criteria would have been. So I should have never started that in the first place. I can't get those hours back now, but I can certainly do a lot going forward to prevent that from happening. I have shelves of curricula that I have never used. One, because some of them are sent to me for review, which is totally fine, but some that I have purchased myself that I fully intended to use that I never even used one lesson, because upon receiving it, I realized this doesn't meet my minimum criteria. And I could have realized that before I ever purchased it, had I been more discriminatory at the beginning, had I been more wedded to selective, extreme criteria. So in conclusion, this whole section really is about carving out the time to decide on what your criteria are, to have the time to carefully consider your options in a focused way with your eye on what question or problem you're trying to solve, and also getting over that fear of missing out. Getting over the idea that because other people are doing something, because this exists in the world, we should be doing it too. If you can gather your information with a focused intent, I need to answer this question or solve this problem, and you have set criteria already, the risk of overwhelm is much less. You also need to just become comfortable with the fact that not everything that is good is meant for you and your family. Some of it is just better for other people, and that is fine. And you have to have faith that the good things, the better things for you will come along if you just sit tight. The next section of the book is called Eliminate, because if you're coming to Essentialism at the ripe old age of 40 like I am, you have a lot of things that you have gathered in your life, not only like physical clutter, but activities and ways of acting and ways of being and ways of structuring your time that probably are not meant for you and probably are not the best for you. And so in the next section of the book, next week, we'll talk about how we go through the mental process of eliminating that stuff. So I hope you will join us again. Be sure to check out Joy's video. As always, you guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for spending some of it with me, and I wish you the very best day.